mentioned the immersion aspect of the experience, and that was the thing that really, we're thrust into the events as if we're almost bystanders. And we don't have the usual talking heads. There's no experts. There's no journalists or historians. And did you go into it initially always planning to have archival footage that would be immersive, or did you talk about that? How did you arrive at the particular structure that you did?
Well, I mean, we had a lot of talks at the beginning of, before we decided we were going to sign on to do the film, how we would approach it. And in fact, it was that approach that allowed us to feel comfortable about making the film. And, you know, for us, it was, I guess it's multidimensional. One, we just, as filmmakers, are always trying to make things that feel like you're watching something unfold in front of you. We don't want to separate you as the audience from the experience, and we want to trust that you can have this conversation with yourself while you can engage with the experience. And it's why we had been hesitant to do any kind of historical documentary work, because often you have to lean on kind of experts or interviews, and this felt like an opportunity because of how it was captured, that we would, you know, it would be possible to actually kind of create an immersive experience. But more than that, it was too complicated. We didn't, in 90 minutes, to try to sum up what led to this, what happened, and try to make definitive statements about it, honestly felt a little irresponsible to us. And I think it's still, you know, the fear is that, are you exploiting something by not giving the right amount of context? How do you give the right amount of context so that an audience can understand what they're seeing? And that was hard. That was a challenge, and it's a line that we're walking that I'm not going to, you know, I have no idea, did we succeed or not, but it was something that was constantly on our mind. We just knew that again, in 90 minutes, you can't, you know, that's something for a book. It's, we wanted to pose questions instead of trying to answer them.
Yeah, the only thing I would add is that, do you remember the gentleman? His name is Art Washington, and he's, it's about 3/4 through the film where he's on the street and he's yelling, "I come from the ghetto too."
Yeah,
it's not right. Yeah,
I was just going to ask you
it's
about
so the two producers, Simon Chin and Jonathan Chin, they had already set up the film with National Geographic, and they came to us to see if we'd be willing to direct it, and they had cut a sizzle reel. I hate that term, sizzle, but it's basically a promotional reel to try to court us to see if we'd be interested in directing it. And that clip was in the sizzle, and so in you know, at the time of the civil unrest in '92, we were both in middle school. So for one, the amount, you know, they cobbled together like a 5-minute sizzle, and there was a tremendous amount of things that we just totally forgot had been actually captured on camera. And that moment in particular, at least for me, was so visceral and so raw that in going into the film, I think there was a large intention to see how we could preserve the integrity of that experience. And one way of doing that is to not have like an academic type, like a filter or like holding your hand through it. And I don't need someone to tell me what Art Washington's experience is. I can see what Art Washington's experience is. And you as an audience hopefully can build a rapport with what the experience was on camera without, again, someone else. And even that process of mediating sometimes is almost like rationalizing it. It's almost saying like, oh, well, this was this anomaly, this moment in time, and we want to bring that to life to say, you know, even thematically, you know, these things are cyclical in nature, and we're having the same types of conversations. So the last thing we want to do is set it in the past and put it in the past and say, these individuals, a lot of the victims' experiences were a thing of the past. This is something that's very, it should feel visceral and it should feel very present. So that was one of the reasons why we decided to tackle it by doing it archive only, and it was, I don't recommend anyone trying to do an archive only film.